Let's get cozy. Let's talk about something very interesting to me. I want to talk about the psychology of winter in video games. Have you ever found yourself playing a game and suddenly you're in a snowy landscape? You start realizing that your character's footsteps are very crunchy, and it's a new sound. It's a new atmosphere, it's a new setting. There's probably action, there's probably enemies nearby, right? Maybe you're just trying to get from point A to point B. As time passes, you start feeling this indescribable feeling. Maybe it's the snowy skies, or maybe it's the mountains, but you start feeling a little confined. There is a scene in the 2015 video game Until Dawn. You're playing as a character, and as you're exploring, one of the other characters, Sam, starts really having a conversation with you and takes in the environment.
But at night just feels menacing, like a sleeping giant.
You gonna publish?
What?
Your pretty poem. The Sleeping Giant.
Now, there's not a lot of games, in my eyes, where the characters kind of just stop and just take everything in. For some reason, this scene has always stuck with me. If you've played Until Dawn, then you know that the characters are about to go through a very traumatic night. This game is full of danger, despair, and horror. But in this very specific moment, both the audience and the characters don't really know what's coming. The character unknowingly sets a very important theme in motion. In this story, you're at the mercy of the mountain. You're at the mercy of your environment. This is not a story where you're safe. This is not a story where you're powerful. You're very small in this story. And the mountain kind of represents that, right? The game is almost introducing you to a new character. The environment itself. The snowy mountain serves as a character. It serves as an object of conflict in the story. It kind of shapes the conflict overall. I mean, that's why it's called Until Dawn, because the characters ask for help, and because of the blizzard, the emergency team tells them that they can't get to them and they have to wait until dawn. When I started thinking about the horror of the winter hell that is Until Dawn, I started thinking of other games and I started making a lot of connections. You don't have to be a Genshin Impact player to know how impactful Genshin Impact, get it? How impactful the game is. It is extremely influential, it's still extremely popular, and I honestly haven't played it in a very long time, but when I did, I really enjoyed it. There is something in Genshin Impact that I can't quite forget about. Dragon Spine. When you first start the game, you're dropped into this environment, and very early on, as you start exploring, you see in the distance this giant snowy mountain. The mountain is visible as soon as you start the game. It's always there in the background as you're learning and exploring for the first time this incredible world. And it also usually is the first time that the players have a really hard time in the game. For me, what made the experience of discovering Dragon Spine so special was the music. The music in Dragon Spine is so melancholic, it's almost relaxing, which juxtaposes the extreme dangers that you're facing in the mountain. The soft piano combined with the extreme effort that you have to perform in order to traverse the mountain, it really creates a very memorable experience. I think Dragon Spine is some of Genshin Impact's best work. I feel like it's usually the first time when players feel meek, like you actually have to try hard to level up so you can explore this mountain. It's dim and difficult, and there's a cold meter that runs out if you're not nearby any fire. As I was exploring it, I felt scared. I felt very out of my depth. Like the enemies were bigger and the terrain was bigger and everything was just more dangerous and the cold meter's running out and you just have to do a lot. But with this incredible soundtrack in the back, it wasn't until you finally slayed your enemies that you were just sitting there and looking at your inventory and eating your food that you start kind of looking around and realizing man, you're kind of very small on this mountain. Obviously, Skyrim is a very special game. The winter in Skyrim is harsh, is brutal, it's unforgiving, it's what it is. As you journey through Skyrim, there's an unmistakable sense of isolation and loneliness, and it's not really a bad thing. It kind of feels calming in a place like Skyrim. For me, Skyrim is the perfect hero's journey, and every time I spend time in the snowy mountains, I feel like the world is so big. It's just so vast, and it feels so real, and it is real for people like me who are just always going back to this game. Honestly, I've seen the community talk a lot about that indescribable feeling that they feel when they play Skyrim. It's not just familiarity, right? I feel like Skyrim feels like a very introspective game. And maybe it's because you have so much freedom, but I really do think that the fact that there's so many huge mountains and these incredible like environments. I spoke about confinement at the beginning of this video, and I really want to bring it up now that we're talking about Skyrim, because the big mountains, the snow, the wind tunnels, everything that you're seeing that makes your kind of like side of your vision like kind of shorter. When your environment starts kind of like moving towards you, right, and you start feeling a little confined, sometimes that brings out a sense of introspection. When you're looking at the horizon and games that you can just see like everything, and it's always just so packed with stuff, and there's so many like colors and all this stuff, you're kind of outside of your body because you're like taking in everything. You're using all your five senses to kind of, you know, process all these like things that are happening visually. But I feel like the palette of Skyrim is almost intimate. It almost feels, well, that's the reason why a lot of people say that it's cozy, right? And winter is this cozy time. Like it's very introspective, very into yourself, very minimal almost. I don't know how to, I hope that I'm making sense of my point. I think sometimes people forget that The Last of Us is divided into chapters that are seasons. The Last of Us is a game that starts in the summer and it ends in the spring. Now, let's talk about the winter chapter. The winter chapter is a story of isolation and resilience. Throughout the game, we play as the protagonist, Joel, who's this like very rugged, strong man, and our job is to take this young girl, Ellie, from point A to point B, which is across states in the US. Throughout the game, Ellie becomes kind of like a daughter figure for us, and it's a very complicated and beautiful like story of love between a father and a daughter. The winter portion of the game, in my opinion, is the emotional peak of the game. The chapter begins with Joel very, very badly harmed, and at this point as the player, we don't even know if Joel is still alive. Like he's like very, very incapacitated. So we now are playing as Ellie. Suddenly as a player, you start playing this character that you've been guiding and trying to protect the whole game, and it's a very, very interesting dynamic that the game really like puts its audience in. As Ellie, you start realizing that your punches are not as strong as Joel's, the gameplay feels harder, everything is very much more difficult. If an enemy comes at you, like it kind of just kills you on the spot. Our energetic and playful daughter figure now has to traverse this horrific world, and it's a very lonely experience. As the player, you feel the isolation. You feel the fear that Ellie feels because you start realizing that you're just very weak comparatively to Joel. I think this point in the game, the winter chapter, represents Ellie's loss of innocence. The cruel world of The Last of Us pulls her down just like it did to Joel. The main enemy of this chapter is a man called David. He is very heinous because he tries to groom Ellie and ultimately violate and kill her. The Last of Us is a commentary on the loss of humanity. Usually zombie games and movies, they are not about like the loss of like comfort or the loss of like the structure of life and the way that we live. Well, most of the time it is about like the loss of humanity, the loss of people, and also, I don't know if this is true, but I think like that's why it's called The Last of Us, because it's like it's not The Last of Us as in like civilization, it's more like humanity. Like the people in The Last of Us time and time again show how horrible they are and how they've lost their humanity, even if they're not zombies, you know what I mean? Even if they're not infected. Winter as a representation of loss of humanity, loss of innocence, makes complete sense. Through these games, you see it. It represents helplessness. It represents weakness. It represents us feeling so small. And I mean, in a lot of stories, winter represents death. Flowers die in winter. Nothing can grow in the winter. I mean, the ice hardens us, right? The mountains feel like dormant beings. These games utilize winter in a way that reminds us that we are human. None of us immune to the environment. Hundreds of civilizations have had to prepare for winter. We can't just conquer it. We can't just survive without, effort. But when we do survive winter, springs await, and it's like a reward for surviving one of the toughest seasons. Winter, in a way, is proof of resilience, and in those quiet moments, it's also proof of life.
Sam?
Did you see this view? I mean, holy cow. Sometimes I forget to just stop and take it all in.